All right, well, it's 2 o'clock right on the nose, and I don't want to keep anyone longer than we had already expected. So I'm sure more people will join us throughout the hour, but first of all, thank you very much for joining us today for our first ever Ask Me Anything session. Shout out to Miss Mayer. She proposed this on Twitter, I think, and INTERalliance jumped on it. So thank you for the idea. We're going to make these a weekly series. So today, obviously, but every Friday between now and May 15th, we'll do a different professional, and we'll send out registration links and all of that good stuff. So logistically, the way that this is going to work is we have a series of questions that you submitted when you registered. We'll try to hit some of those for every other. Sorry, I have new people adding. We're going to run through some of the questions that you submitted, but for any questions as we're talking, if you can use the chat function, it's at the bottom of your screen. Send those through. I'm going to try to moderate those as much as I can and get those added. So with that being said, Lydia Seitz is our first professional for Ask Me Anything series. You may have seen Lydia at Tech Olympics this year. She was part of our career bingo. I'm going to hand it over to you, Lydia, and let you introduce yourself and just tell the group a little bit about what you do, where you went to college, some of those high-level pieces of information.
Okay. My dad calls right as this is starting. So, yeah, I am Lydia Seitz. I have been in IT either from a administrative side or technical side for about 17 years now. I started off in accounting is what I actually went and got my associate's degree for. That was at Cincinnati State. And then I decided to go back to school. And at that point, I went to DeVry University and transitioned into IT. So that's a little bit of a variance. I think it's given me a good spot, though, because of the fact of I know both sides of that stuff. I understand the finances that go into running an IT department, and we're not cheap. And then also the technical piece of it. Other than that, I'm currently doing project management and operations management at CBTS on a project. So that's been a little bit of an adventure, and that's it. That's the high level.
All right, great. Well, thank you again for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Give me 1 second. So this is our new world, trying to work while having kids and dogs and cats and everything at home. Sorry, my 7-year-old out of the room. But the first question that I'd like to hit is, what does an IT project and operations manager do? And what does your day-to-day look like?
Day-to-day, there is no day-to-day. So actually, in a larger project, a project manager versus an operations manager will really be sectioned off into 2 totally different things. This is sort of a combo role. So a project manager is driving deadlines, checking on resources, making sure we hit deadlines, things like that. Operations is, what do we need to actually get the work done? So right now, I'm actually going back to work physically on Monday because I work for essentially a utility company. So we're essential, and our project is picking back up because they're also essential, the people we're supporting. So for me, operations today in the last couple of days is getting sanitizing wipes and things that we can use to be safe in the workplace. It just depends. But you've got your design phase, and then you operationalize it, which means this is how we get it done on a day-to-day basis, basically. I don't know if that helped.
Absolutely. So do you work with waterfall or agile or both? What do your teams typically work through?
So from a networking perspective, in my opinion, I think it's really hard to do agile with networking. There's some ways to adapt it, but so agile, I'm sorry, it's hard to do agile with, I can't remember what I said, agile with networking. Here's the thing. Agile is more software based, and I get it, but when it comes to hardware, which is my background, you either have the equipment or you don't, particularly if you're doing implementation. Now, if you're doing agile in terms of network updates and there's no equipment on the move, you can kind of do that. Like, hey, we're going to update this, or that makes sense. You can kind of do agile in that way. But if you're doing an implementation project, which is a total equipment, that's hard to do anything other than waterfall, in my opinion.
Absolutely. When we were doing the Agile transformation at Kroger while I was there, it was very difficult to move all of the development teams into that Agile framework, but any of the infrastructure requirements, who was still working very waterfall, primarily because of just ordering and procurement in a lot of ways. It was hard to sync up those timelines effectively. So it is challenging. I agree. I was curious if someone else had it figured out. When I was there, Kroger was still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's tough.
So rumor has it that you have a tech blog. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how it came to be and what you focus on and how often you write it? Just a little bit of
I don't write it enough, basically. So I think I'm going to take advantage of some quarantine time to actually start writing. For me, it was more to keep me on top of tech as well, because when you start moving, when you're touching the equipment less and you're touching the tech less, you go into the operations side, you're not as tech savvy, but you're not as in touch on your day-to-day, right? Because whatever you're doing day-to-day is where you're going to be. So I think the first thing I wrote recently was, I think my first one was just kind of understanding what the difference with bytes and all that, and what that's actually measuring. So like for my grandmother who's I have to go down and work with her on Zoom again tomorrow because that's how she's getting her religious services. And that's been tough. It was sort of like, okay, everything's in the bytes. Well, what does bytes measure? Because she couldn't understand the difference between maxing out her data on her phone versus download speed, which is what you're really having measured, and your Wi-Fi. So that was a whole thing there. I just kind of write about whatever I'm seeing that in tech. It's called Tech Wanderlust. So I don't really want to get into one whole subject. And so I thought, well, if they see that, they'll know that it's going to be all over the place. But yeah, I need to be writing that weekly. So thank you. Got to get more honest on that.
No, typically those things that aren't your day-to-day job very easily get, I completely understand that. So obviously our primary audience today are high school students who are excited about technology, but really trying to figure out how to break through. So as you are hiring talent or partnering with managers in your department to hire talent, what are you looking for at that entry level?
Entry level, I'm more into, I want to know how you can think creatively to fix things, because you can document things a million times over. There's always that one thing that is going to come up that no one has documented, that no one's seen before. I mean, look at what's going on with the COVID-19 situation. And like I said, and it's not a tech example, it's more of an operations example, but we had to get sanitizing wipes. Well, good luck with that. I mean, they are nowhere to be found. I lucked out and got 2, and there is a very stern limit on 2. So I'm like, okay, what else can we do? So I start Googling, okay, can I make my own? And I've got paper towels, and we can do it with this, so there's a lot of creative, anybody can be good at the tech piece. That is actually not as hard to learn, especially if you're passionate about it. Can you explain it to other people? If you are in support, can you make it understandable to the people you're interacting with? That would be the thing that's the main thing I'm looking for. I look for more personality, because that's harder to fix quote unquote, or teach, than the tech skills. The tech skills we can teach. The versatility.
Absolutely agree with that. So shout out to everyone on the phone or on the Zoom conference. Remember, we offer a ton of those soft skill training classes, everything from mock interviews to presentation skills, LinkedIn, defining your own brand, all of that stuff. So you heard it from her, you've heard it from me. Those soft skills and the ability to communicate are every bit as critical as, being able to execute what you need to execute from a tech perspective. Let's see. How about, what has been your favorite or most successful project?
Ooh, my favorite project has probably been setting up help desk systems. I've had to do it. So in my old job, I've had 3 different ones I've set up. And what I liked about it was that it covered the full range, right? Because I was in a very small organization, very small team. So it was the BA work that you do. What do we need? Your gathering requirements. What do your end users need to see? Then it was setting up, as things started, we wound up with Zendesk. That was the last one I set up. That was workflow type stuff that we had to do. So that was pretty fun. Yeah, I don't have a favorite to be honest, but that I would say that's my drug. I like automating things. If I can make a workflow and stuff, I'm like, oh look, it's not manual. I hate manual work. So if I can make it not manual, I'm all into that. So I would say that one. Implementing Zendesk was a big one. Documentation that people had to do, all that stuff. Projects when you're right in the middle of it are not your favorites. It's when you do the post-mortem sometimes that you're like, oh, that was kind of cool that I learned that, because when it's going on, things are hitting the fan sometimes, you know, no matter what you do.
So the next question, it comes in and says, "Hi Lydia, I'm going to UC for business in the fall. However, I still have an interest in IT. Could you elaborate on how your experience was after graduation?" So this is a good question, how you went from that business side into the technology side.
Okay, so this is how I worked my way into IT. I was an administrative assistant. I had come from the world of finance. I decided I wasn't into it. I was actually trying to get into engineering, like drafting stuff. At the time, economy-wise, that was not hiring. So I thought, well, you know, let's just see what I can do. I figured I could be an admin and then work my way up. That was my strategy. And I wound up being the administrative assistant for the IT guy, the IT director. So that helped. Any term I heard that I didn't know, I wrote it down. I talked to him, I Googled it, I figured out how it went together. You know, just I was like a sponge, picking up anything I could. And then I started going, hey, can I help with this really minor little thing that it doesn't matter if I break it, you know? And then started getting more confidence that way too. I would say also documenting, helping with documentation was very helpful, because once you're typing it out and you're writing it, you're retaining it yourself as well. A lot of people hate documentation. It is tedious, but it helps to learn so much. And I think the other thing was, if you wind up going into the more business side, I had a CFO, and CFOs, they're better about it now, but they're not always great about tech, right? Because it's expensive and CFOs don't like expensive things. So I had to go in there and always explain why we were spending this, how it worked, what it helped with the business. And I learned an immense amount doing that. So I would say be on the lookout for just opportunities to learn. If you're on the lookout for opportunities to learn, you will find them. I would say that was the thing that helped, because I'll tell you, no matter what you get into in the beginning, it will not be what you wind up being in, you know, after a while. So it changes.
I will echo that as well. One of the things that I teach the kids and everyone that I've mentored in my past has been, if you see a problem that someone else isn't solving, offer to solve it. Offer to step up, take on, even if it is more work. Show that you have that tenacity and that willing to jump in and learn something, just like you said, learn something you didn't know before.
Yeah. Yeah, they always say necessity is the mother of invention. I think it's also the mother of innovation. You know, sometimes you don't know what you need. Uber is a great example. Most of these startups, a lot of those are not people that were cab drivers or whatever their thing is. They were consumers that were like, this is a gap that's missing. They did their market research. They found out other people thought it was a gap as well. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So the next question's a little tactical, but do you have any tips or tricks on setting up a home or setting up a business network at home?
Okay, so if it's a business network at home, I'll be honest, if you're just wanting to play around and create a network, you can go to like a micro center and get servers and things like that. You can also, I haven't set up a lab in a long time, a virtual lab, but there are virtual labs you can get. Just Google virtual lab. Most everything is cloud-based now. So I would say, you know, like for a domain, if you want your own domain, go out to Google. Google domains are $12. And honestly, if you don't have your name domain, spend the $12 and get that now and automatically renew it. Because when you send emails out, if you're between jobs or whatever, very few people have my work email. They have Lydia at lydiasites.com. That's super easy. As far as setting up the actual network piece, to be honest, I never really did that. I didn't get into that here. But yeah, if you can get like a switch or something like that, go on Amazon. Get a Cisco switch. and play around with it and see what you can do there, or Netgear, you know, and play around. But most everything is cloud. So I would say more than anything, I would start looking at cloud-based stuff and setting up cloud stuff, because that's where it's at, is cloud architecture. More and more the hardware piece other people are handling, unless you're super into it, and then I might not be the best person for you, but just Google it. Google is your friend.
Agreed. So the next question comes in, and I actually hear this a lot, but how would you rank coding? How important is it to be able to do code in order to be successful in an IT career?
The future seems to belong to the coders. I would say definitely learn to code. Learn HTML. I always tell people to download Grasshopper to use JavaScript. I mean, Cisco is like the premier networking thing, and even they're actually changing their entire stuff to do network automation. So someone in my phase of career, maybe I don't need to learn it. I probably will, just for fun. But someone starting off, yeah, you need to learn some coding. Just learn it. Even if you don't wind up doing it, or specifically learn languages that are applicable to you. So like if you're going in a network, Python is what a lot of people are using to automate their network tasks. Learn Python, you know. So find out what language is applicable to what you're going into. But yeah, it never hurts to know some coding. The more diverse you can be, the better, particularly when the economy is not cooperating. They like versatile people. Versatile people tend to make it through that kind of stuff.
So a little bit of a fun question. What's your favorite TV show right now and why?
Mixed-ish. I love Mixed-ish. That's my favorite TV show right now. The Mandalorian is a close second because obviously Star Wars. Mixed-ish because I am biracial, and so my cousins, I have two sets of cousins. They're also biracial, and we grew up in that time period, and we're watching like, oh my God, this is my childhood. So it's a fun thing to watch with my cousins. It's a fun thing to watch with my brother, who's around the corner from me, and we come here, we're like, yeah. So it's, I think what Mixed-ish and Black-ish and Modern Family, and that really started, I think Modern Family was one that started those kinds of comedies. I think if there was any question of representation and diverse representation in entertainment was important, I think those shows, you know, there's something to seeing a show and going, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I went through. And so that's a big thing. I'm not a big Game of Thrones or where people die all the time. That's not my jam, unless it's investigation discovery. I watch that a lot, more than I probably should. But yeah, I would say Mixed-ish is my thing, followed closely by The Mandalorian.
Nice. I got dragged into the Tiger King, and I don't know that I'm happy about it, but
I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I can't help it.
High school students, I wouldn't recommend it to you, but it's wild. That's all I can say.
FOMO going on about it. I've got to get in there, but yeah, it's gonna be.
Good luck.
It looks like a train wreck.
It really is. Great question from Natalia. If you find yourself to work better with people, but you're now isolated with quarantine, how can you find the motivation to learn or to continue to work without, feeling that loss?
So I think there's a couple things. Number one, remind yourself it's only temporary. We're not going to be like this forever. It's temporary. It's temporary. It's temporary. And when you are ready to break out, just remember your grandma or that little old lady you live down the street that you like, or your parents, whatever, someone you love. So that's the first and foremost. It's only temporary. The other thing, though, and I've loved this. I love is a bad way to say it, but what I have noticed and actually enjoyed with regard to the quarantine is how inventive we've all been with technology. Like I said, my grandmother is joining Zoom to see her religious services. My parents do the same thing. I help them do that. My cousins in Jersey, who's been really hit hard, we had a virtual, I do not recommend this for high school students, a virtual happy hour. So maybe you guys have a virtual tea, There's ways to see other people and kind of augment that. It'll never take the place. But even, I'm an introvert and I love my quiet time. And even I'm like, yeah, I'll get on video and talk to people. And that's so not me. But, it's getting to everyone. So I would say augment it that way. Set up times. You've got WhatsApp. You've got Zoom has 40 minutes, I think is the limit. You've got Google Hangouts. You've got Facebook. chat. There's so many different things you can do to connect, and just set up a time and say, hey, let's set up a time to do this. We did a virtual movie club. I go to movies with people once a month. We rotate. So we watched a movie that was on Prime and talked about it. And, it's tough. I know I'm an introvert. I was built for this, but I do know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to get out. So yeah, that's how I would augment it. You just kind of have to substitute for now.
I think that those are great answers. I would say even INTERalliance, which is, an organization that is very heavily focused on giving technology opportunities and telling everyone how great tech is, we have not done a great job of having a remote presence in the past. So this session is a great example of how we're flexing. We did some mock interviews remotely for our leadership council. We even did a remote lunch last week, which ended up admittedly being a remote Microsoft Minecraft gaming day. We gave them all access to my realm, and we just ended up playing games for an hour. But I would agree with that just finding ways to get your face in front of people, and anytime you get a chance to do the video instead of just a call, definitely do it. But good answers. Let's see. So a couple of questions about what to major in. There's one about, is it useful to double major in business and computer science? And then the second one, for someone who is majoring in computer science, what are useful minors? We'll lump those together.
Okay. So I kind of cheated on this. I went to school for one thing and then was like, I don't like this, and went back to school for something else. So I didn't have a double major situation. I will say it's nice to have a business degree or minor in business, because like I've said before, the big problem the tech people have is, particularly if they're not, so networking in particular, cloud infrastructure, all of that stuff is seen as overhead. You're seen as overhead. You're not really, you're enabling the business, but you're not the developer of Zoom that's actually, getting everybody to sign up for the product, right? So you need to take some business classes so that you can properly explain the business ROI, or return on investment, that comes from upgrading this or getting this tool. I talked about that project, the Zendesk project. You need to understand how to gather requirements. I've seen a lot of things. I'll pick on Evernote for a minute. I loved Evernote. I saw so many forums saying, can we please get a task list? Can we please get, you can create a task, but you can get a task list. And the developer's like, we're going to roll out this thing. And sometimes you'll hear about with Microsoft and other things, they'll roll out things that no one asked for. They weren't listening to their users and they paid for it. So that's a big deal too. I think, yeah. So I think if you can definitely take some business electives, or if you want to, double major, MIS is a big thing, Managed Information Systems, which shows that you can get a little bit further. So it's a business, it's a bachelor's of technical management. That's what I have. My focus was on computer networking. But that means that, and accounting, even though I don't love it, it definitely looks good on a resume, because that says, we understand finance type of thing. So yes, get as much business in there as you can, along with your major tech stuff. And I would also say, to go off on a little rabbit hole here, I'm a big proponent of getting the basics of all different areas of IT. If you have a, intro to web, intro to this, do it. Even if you don't necessarily want to go into that route, understand how it fits into the larger situation. So.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, because you never know where you're going to end up, and you may fall in love with something that you did not expect to fall in love with. So to get that multiple exposure. Another tip that I would throw out is try to take a marketing class, and Lord Almighty, try to take a sales class, because you're trying to implement new products as an IT technologist to the business. You have to be able to tell your story, and you have to know what they're looking for, how they're looking for it, and be able to sell it. So those are two things that I think traditionally we go, well, yeah, we need it, duh, it's technology, we understand it. But when we're not capable of explaining how it makes it different for the business, then they don't hear it. And they see it, again, like Lydia said, as just overhead expense that we're just trying to push on them, which is not true. A lot of times it's for their own good, and we have to help them see why we're there. So Lydia, really random question. Dogs, cats, or other? What is your preference?
Oh, dogs. Actually, let me see if I can get Rusty to come here. Rusty! he's so lazy. He lays. He's probably not going to come in now that I'm talking about him. Rusty, Rusty. Oh my God, Rusty's here. I don't know if he's going to come over and show his face. He might be a little camera shy, but yeah, I mean, I love all the critters, but I'm a dog person. Oh, here we go. Come here, buddy. Can you come here? He's stretching. He's stretching from the whole thing of, come here. There you go. There's Rusty.
Aw, I'm a big dog person too.
Yeah.
In fact,
I like something that's happy to see me, no matter what cats, you kind of have to really work on getting them to like you. And I'm like, oh, that's a little much for me. But I mean, there's a cat outside my mom's house that is a stray. She started feeding him, and she is the sweetest thing. And I always go and pet her. So yeah.
Nice. I'm actually surprised that my puppy Valkyrie hasn't jumped in here yet. She's kind of obsessed with me, and she has a really hard time staying away for this long. So she's probably inside. That's probably where she is.
Yeah, napping.
All right. Let's see what else we have. I guess a little bit more of a serious question. With everyone working from home, there's been some conversation about having an influx of IT jobs as a result. Do you think that this is true, or how do you think this has impacted the job market or will impact the job market? And then ultimately, how is it impacting your day-to-day workload?
So, okay, so I'm going to break that up into pieces. The influx of IT jobs. Yes, not immediately. We've got to get through this whole thing of everybody being able to go back to work, right? The one thing I think has come out, I posted about this recently, but technology is not, it's not a phase. It's not, internet at home is not a luxury. I think what's become clear is that you have to have these tools. You just have to. I mean, you just never can tell. Where the influx of jobs comes in will be a big deal. I think that remains to be seen. In my case, like I said, I mean, our project was just plain stopped because, being in Ohio, we're in quarantine. A lot of other states are in quarantine. And until they got themselves established as an essential business, that was what enabled them to open back up again. So I think where it's going to be a big deal for a lot of people is, okay, we can't afford to do it now because we've been stopped, or we absolutely don't, we're just not going to do it right now. We don't have the money. In the long term, I think it will be. And what I would say is really pay attention to tech trends and emerging jobs. I think that I think some of the manufacturing is going to come back because now it's at a point where it's like, oh, this isn't so good to have all of these medical supplies totally not, where we don't have the safety whatevers that we feel comfortable with. Is that going to be humans making all that stuff though? I don't know. I think it'll probably be more robotics and automation, which we all know is going to be a big deal anyway. So yes, I think more jobs will come. It impacted me immediately in that I've been off for 2 weeks and now I'm going back on Monday. Where the jobs are going to come from, I don't know, but I think there's a lot more recognition. Like I said before, social media is being used for what it was supposed to be to begin with, which is to be social. Everybody's connecting and being funny and trying to be nice, and that has not been on social media for a while now. So, yeah.
I agree. What is the best part or the most fun part of your job?
Right now, I'm in a good position where I'm kind of setting up the rules and the workflow and the culture that I want. A lot of times you wind up in a space where, I mean, you can always impact the culture, hopefully positively. But being the person that's doing the day-to-day management is that I'm really kind of setting the tone. And that's something, I'll be honest with you, to quote Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So sometimes it's a dual. Sometimes I come in like, I'm setting the tone, and then I'm in a bad mood, and then I have to remind myself, okay, you're setting the tone. So, but I like that, and I like being able to set up processes and operationalize stuff. I really shine in that kind of stuff. So I would say that's what's fun right now.
Okay. So Mac or Windows, and is there a natural inclination or preference for workplace PC?
So for a long time, it was all PC all the time, right? And a lot of it is because Apple, and it's a very long book, but I listened to the Steve Jobs biography and it helped me learn so much more about Apple. I need to get a Mac. I haven't worked on a Mac since high school, to be honest with you. I am a PC person, but I need to learn how to use Mac just because it's getting to be more pervasive. I don't really have a preference overall on PC versus Mac, and Mac has started to get a little bit more business ready. I think they started to realize like we can't just be a personal computer. We have to get into industry, and it's a little bit more approachable to do it now. The thing I have the biggest preference on is my phone. I can live without a laptop, a tab in it. This right here is glued to me at all times. So I am an Android person, and everybody's like, well, Google sees all of what you do. I'm like, Google already knows what I do. The ship has sailed. And Apple knows more than we want to say that they do as well. I am thinking about switching to an Apple just because my parents are using it, and I want to be able to help them with it. But I know me, I'll go back to Google eventually. But yeah, Mac or PC, and it's starting to make inroads now. Mac has a really good thing of they protect the user from themselves, to be honest. But the market share of Mac is increasing, which means that you're going to have more people developing viruses for it. Nothing is impenetrable, and I think that's something that people don't understand. If I'm a hacker or nefarious, some kind of nefarious person, I'm going to be at home. I want to get 90% of the market and infiltrate that. I don't want to infiltrate like 10%, and those are made up numbers, but you know what I mean. But now that they're getting out there, there's some vulnerabilities there too. So I don't know. It's all of it. I'll putz around with a Mac at some point. I need to.
Fantastic. Who's your role model?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I don't know that I have a one role model. Being a female in IT, that can be kind of tough, if I'm being honest. And then you have the intersectionality of not only being a female in IT, but a female color in IT. And it's just, you just don't run into that. You just don't. And in hardware, I mean, if I wanted to take the road less traveled, I definitely did. There was for a while the CIO or CEO of Cisco, and I really liked her. I can't remember her name. I haven't seen her tweet in a long time, but what I liked about her was she was very much herself. I think sometimes when you're a minority in a field, you feel the pressure to assimilate, right? Like when I first got into IT, I'm a makeup girl. I mean, of all the things I miss, going to Ulta is a big deal to me right now. I miss Ulta. I miss Sephora. So I went through that phase where, oh my God, to be taken seriously, I can't wear makeup. And then I finally was like, no. And I will say, I love that about Gen Z, and I love that about millennials. You guys are your authentic selves, like all the time. Sometimes it's a lot of authenticity, if I'm being honest, but overall, you guys are yourselves. And I love that. I love that you all do that. So I would say anybody who's done that kind of stuff, I like. Oprah is a give me, but I think more than anybody, my mom. She's a tenacious lady. So I would say my mom and my dad more than anybody.
That's great. I was at a women in technology presentation at one point in time, and Indra, who used to be the CIO of PepsiCo, was very eye-opening because she talked a lot about how she wasn't going to conform, but at the same time she had to play ball a lot of ways, and she really didn't want to in order to not be discounted. So as a female minority, she felt like she had to really offload her child responsibility to her husband a lot more than other colleagues would, or that she would have liked. But her goal was really to focus on that level and to get to that level. And she's like, yeah, I think there are times that my kids hate me because of it, but it was something that I wasn't willing to sacrifice in that way. And part of it, like, how that's terrible. How could you say that? But in other ways, like, it's kind of refreshing to hear a female leader say that they are sacrificing in their time, not just pretending like they can do it all, because it's hard to do it all.
Yeah,
assimilate like that.
Yeah, well, and I will say too, once you kind of prove yourself, and when I say prove, I'm trying to change the way I phrase that from proving to earning, right? Because I think if you get into the proving mode, you're always proving. You want to earn, because that has the concept of, A, you're proving yourself, but you're also getting what you have earned, right? once you have that experience, like now I do. I mean, I show up, and when I talk to young ladies in high school and in different places, I show up the way I would on a weekend, you know, reasonably. But like I have my makeup and stuff, and it's fascinating because I wear makeup. They never think I'm in tech. So I'm all about now, they'll ask, they'll say, well, what do you think she is? And it's a makeup artist, it's a hair designer, it's a this and a that. And my friend goes, well, why do you think that? Well, she has on makeup. So I'm very intentional about making sure I wear my makeup, and I'm my normal girly self when I go places, because, you know, this has nothing to do with what's going on in here.
Agreed.
So.
I love that authenticity. I love keeping who you are up front regardless. That's fantastic. Another great question from Aiden. So outside of this crazy quarantine situation, would you say that you have a large workload at home? So do you bring a lot of work home?
No, not on this project. This project, it is physical rack builds. So by nature of the project, I don't, you know, bring a whole lot home. I've been on other projects where you bring a lot home. You know, if it's more of a cloud type of thing, you know, as long as you get your laptop, you're bringing it home. I do think it's important to have boundaries on what you're doing. You cannot pour into anything else if you're not pouring into yourself. You get the same 24 hours and 7 days a week and immunity system, which I think we're all learning about, and everything else, that everybody else gets. And so I have definitely been guilty of wearing myself out. And running at full speed for a couple years. And last year, I got something called pericarditis, which is an inflammation of the lining around the heart. And I have asthma, so I was like, oh, I thought it was asthma. And it was 3 times I got it. And I see it with my friends that are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and they're going to the doctor and they have nothing more wrong. This is before COVID. They have nothing more wrong than dehydration and exhaustion, which will kill you. I mean, believe it or not. And it's because they're running themselves into the ground. So long story short, sometimes I do, not on this project because of the nature of the project, but keep your boundaries. Keep your boundaries. Like sometimes you put in a little extra. And I think a lot of companies are becoming more, you know, it's not the old school Joe versus the volcano drudgery. They're trying to understand that they get better from their employees by letting them recharge.
That's right. Take care of your employees and they'll take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
So before, tell us a little bit about the jobs that you had before the one that you're in.
Okay. Let's see. So my most recent job was 14 years at a nonprofit, and I did pretty much, I supported anything that plugged into a wall. So that included AV projects, which is it's tech-based, but it's a totally different planet than networking. I did some cloud stuff, some cloud migration things in that role. And before that, I spent a long time, like I said, as an administrative assistant, which was helpful, just kind of understanding how things go together. I'll give you a tip too, no matter where you are, be friends with the team's admin. They can make or break you. I know, because I've done it. So, you know, get in with the admins. Make sure your team is good with the admins. I've done a couple other things so I was at P&G for a little bit as a contractor. I was at Mercy Health as a contractor, and that was all PM type stuff. But yeah, so then my last thing was my permanent job was 14 years. So I went through a lot there, but it was fun. I mean, yep.
So along the same lines, what's your dream company? Where would you love to work?
Aside from for myself, I would say, you know, I don't know. I think because of where I'm at in my career, I think the thing that I would mostly dream for is to work for me, if I'm being honest. I would love to write, which we covered already. I need to do more of. But I would love to do more writing, because I think, you know, you gotta learn where you shine. You gotta learn what flavor you bring to what you do. There is always going to be someone in the room a little bit more technical than me. There just will be, because I am more of a generalist. Where I shine and what I am good at is taking these really complex things and making it digestible to someone brand new to tech or trying to learn. I'm very good at explaining things and communicating and stuff like that. So that would be my dream thing, is just work for myself, be a writer, and do that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I've heard Google is fun and all that. Microsoft would be a cool one. Those are all cool places to kind of stop through. The only thing about any office that gives you a whole lot of perks, that's how long they expect you to be in that office. And I'm at a point where I'm more about traveling and, you know, that kind of thing. But Microsoft is awesome. I would say P&G. P&G is fun too.
Great. Yeah, I've heard that about Google. I have a couple of friends who work there, and they provide you all 3 meals, plus they have a service for your laundry, plus they do massages and stuff. And I'm like, that is so awesome. And they're like, no, they want to make sure you never have to leave for anything. And it's like,
yes.
Oh, it's kind of like, great, you live there.
Yeah, if you're getting breakfast, I don't want to be anywhere for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So talk to the students a little bit about the power of having a strong and meaningful mentor or mentors.
That's huge. So when I first got into IT, so when I say I didn't know anything about tech, I didn't even know how to use PowerPoint. I knew nothing. I was not that kid that was all about the tech. I used to make fun of my best friend's little brother going, oh my God, are you into tech stuff again? It was CompUSA at the time. We're like, So he thinks it's funny that I wound up in tech. My boss was a huge mentor. I mean, there were times where I was like, God, I don't know if I can get this. Networking in particular, if I didn't know I was a visual learner before, I do now. Networking is hard because you have to visualize how this data is transporting from your switch to the gateway, out there on the ISP to the next place, right? So that was a huge thing, just having someone going, you can do it, you can do it. Then after that, when he moved on, I learned more of the operational side from, I've had 2 Matts that I've worked for. So Matt 2, from a consecutive standpoint, I learned more about the operational type side. I would say the thing that I'm most proud of in my career is that I can count on 2 fingers, literally, the amount of people in my career in tech that if I emailed them and said, hey, I need your help, they wouldn't respond. And I'm fine with the 2 people because you can't please everybody, right? But that's a huge deal because you can't know everything. I actually reached out to my first boss in IT a few weeks ago because I liked his management style. I was dealing with a management situation where I'm like, what am I going to do with this guy? You know, because I will say also, if you're a minority and sometimes as a female, managing day-to-day all guys, that can be a thing. And it was a thing. And I'm like, what do I do? You know, so you want to have those people that you don't maybe see them all the time, but you can ping them. But it's huge. I can't overstate how important it is and how important it is to build your network and be likable so that people want to help you.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And one thing that I'd like to add is I had a huge pet peeve as a manager at Kroger and a senior leader that people would approach me and say, hey, do you want to be my mentor? I have no problem mentoring and giving you guidance, but to me, like being a true mentor has to be almost an emotional connection. Like you both have to feel like you're invested. You can have lots of advocates in that space. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're your mentor. So you want somebody who has no problem giving you incredibly direct feedback and knowing that that feedback is coming from their heart and because they want you to succeed. But at the same time, you have to be open and willing to hear that from them and know that it's genuine. So I've had several people that I sat down and had coffee or lunch with, and I was like, you know what, we're just not compatible. I think you're going to do really great, but just our personalities and our styles, it's not going to work out. I'd love to help you in every way I can, but it wasn't a good fit for both of us. So that's what you do. You have to work at a mentorship. It's not just, oh, you're my mentor, so Lydia's going to do all of the work. Absolutely not. That's not how it works. So just something to keep in mind. So timely, I guess. What are your best tips for managing a troublesome teammate? I know how annoying this can be, hoping for some personal insight.
First and foremost is, and this is hard. It was hard for me. I've just finally reached a level of maturity where I don't take it personal. It's not necessarily, even if they're directing it at you, it's more a statement about them than you, right? So have the confidence to know what you know. And I will say, I hate to say this, but don't go down to that level of behavior, right? Be your normal professional self. If you're in a position where it's a coworker or a colleague, talk to your manager, kind of mention it to them, but let your manager know, like, hey, I had this conversation. This is, kind of what's going on, but I want to handle it myself. Most of the time I was like, I want to handle it myself. I want you to be aware, right? If you are in a position of a managerial, or supervisory role, like what I'm in right now, I talked to my managers and said, hey, this is what I'm dealing with on the day-to-day. We had HR come down. They talked about some things. And at some point, it became a point where it wasn't workable, right? And I had to make a tough call and go, I don't think me and this individual are the best mix. And I don't think it's the best mix on the team either. So it wasn't just about me. It was, how are they impacting the culture, right? So if you're being in a more supervisory, like I said, I'm a big culture person. You spend more time at work than you do anywhere else. So I am not about toxic culture. If it becomes toxic, something has to change. But yeah, I would say try to take the emotion out of it. Just kind of, I have a friend I always goes, it's just facts and figures. Sometimes you don't need to handle it right off. If it's not really an emergency, don't handle it right off the bat. You can sleep on it and, cool off and then do whatever. But it's difficult. But at some point, I've made the decision to personally move on because of difficult managers or coworker situations. And I've been in the position to decide other people need to move on because it's just not workable anymore. And it's tough. It's tough in either case. But, just try to be always stay professional, if nothing else. Always stay professional.
Absolutely. The way that I approached it personally was that if someone wasn't doing a good job in that role, we're probably stopping them from being doing a great job in another. So we kept someone and impacted the team negatively if they weren't working out, because we're taking the opportunity for them to be successful somewhere else and we're hurting ourselves. So we just cut ties. I love that, facts and figures, and that's exactly how we had to manage it as well. So 2 more questions, and really we're going to lump them together. Number 1, what's your favorite part about Cincinnati? And then along with that, what are some places either inside or outside the state that you have visited that you've really loved?
Okay. Favorite parts of Cincinnati. So I love that we've got the best of both worlds where it's very urbane, but you can take a couple turns and you're in the middle of the country and you can go on a trail and, I like that about Cincinnati, of course, graders and all that stuff. I love spring, which I'm currently missing. I wish spring liked me as much as I like it. It makes me sneeze all the time. But so yeah, and I love all the trees. I'm all about all the trees and all of that. And my family's here. Where are my favorite places to visit it? San Diego is number 1. If I could pick up and move tomorrow, I would go to San Diego. I've never been anywhere that has 4 different weather reports. They have the desert, the city, the beach, and the mountains. It's like, that's 4 reports right there, and it's all pretty straight up. New York is the other one that I love. St. Thomas was beautiful. And I would say Paris. Those are the 4 places that I have no problem going back to at any point in time. And I need to make a point of it next year. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, the way things are going.
Awesome. Well, I know we're running up on time, so I just wanted to stop us here and say, Lydia, thank you so much for your time and your great advice and insights. I feel like I know you much better now, and I'm really excited to keep working with you on a professional basis here with INTERalliance. Again, Ms. Mayer, thank you for bringing the idea and helping so much with the marketing and the registration. We absolutely could not have done it without you. And then lastly, to all of the students, thank you for being here. Your questions were incredible. They were very, very insightful. I appreciate you being prompt and signing up and really working through this kind of prototype with us. If you have any feedback from students, Jill or Lydia, please send them my way. And this was recorded, so we're going to try to find a way, put it on YouTube or something, so that way others who couldn't visit us today can engage and enjoy this as well. But thank you, everybody. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. I think the sun is shining, so at least get out and stay 6 feet away from everyone else. But enjoy the sunshine, and look out for the registration link for next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.